Welcome to the Mental Health Series. This is Session 1, Understanding Negative Emotions. I'm excited to begin this journey together as you focus on your mental health and well-being. Whether your goal is for more joy in your life, or to process through pain, or just to have more insight, awareness and understanding of why you feel the way that you do is a great place to begin. Having that understanding of how you feel and why is quite empowering. Sometimes when we feel down or anxious, we want to hide those feelings and ignore them. Today, we're going to explore them in a new way. We're going to see how they show some great things about you. In today's discussion, we're going to begin with a brief introduction. Then we will talk about the brain's role in our emotional health. We will discuss why you feel the way that you do. And then we'll pull everything together with a tool called positive reframing. These sessions are designed to be an interactive program. I'll share some ideas and then give you time to work on the worksheets. You can do these individually or as a group. My name is Chris Guzniczak. I am a licensed professional counselor. I work at Flower Mound Counseling. I work with individuals, couples, and teens. I focus heavily on the Team CBT tools developed by Dr. David Burns. I'll share one of those tools with you today. Before we get to the tool, let's take a look at our brain. Our brains are amazing. They are like complex supercomputers that run every system in our bodies. And if you think about it, they really have one important job, and that's to keep us alive. Our brains protect us. They take input from external or internal stimuli, and they respond accordingly. Think of your brain as your body's warning system. If you stub a toe, your brain will send a pulse through your nervous system and you will feel physical pain. If you face a physical threat, your brain literally goes through fight or flight mode and instinctively raises your heart rate, maybe shifts your focus, maybe prepares you for the threat. If you lose someone close to you, your brain processes that loss and you experience an emotion like grief. As you can see, even your most painful, frustrating feelings are part of your overall system. They're all part of how you experience life. So why do we feel the way that we do? I often have clients that come in and say that they are just anxious or just depressed. They may report that they have a diagnosis of something like major depressive disorder or general anxiety, so it's just the way that they are made. Sometimes these emotions are so deep and can be so intense that we can't process our thoughts. They can have us feeling like the emotion is just part of who we are and that we are helpless to change that. In reality, we may be predisposed to feel more anxiety or depression than most, but there is always a reason behind our emotions. In fact, we are going to take a look at these reasons. We're going to show you that those painful feelings don't point to what is wrong with you, like a diagnosis does. They actually point to what is right with you. We are going to take a look at a tool called positive reframing. The tool was developed by Dr. David Burns. If you like the tool, I recommend you go to feelinggood.com and learn more. There are many great resources out there. When we feel negative emotions like anxiety and depression, we can feel weak, like something is wrong with us. With this positive reframing tool, we are going to literally flip negative emotions and thoughts on their head with three important questions. First, is the feeling or thought appropriate for the situation? Second, are there any benefits that you get from the thought or the feeling, as painful as it is? Ask yourself, why would my brain want me to feel this way? And then third, what does the feeling or thought show about me that is quite positive? Does it point to core values or characteristics about me? I can imagine that this sounds kind of strange to think about painful emotions this way, so let's jump into the tool and we'll see an example. If you have a positive reframing worksheet in front of you, it looks something like this. You have three columns: the thought or feeling, advantages, and the core values. If you don't have a worksheet, you can just use a blank sheet of paper. But something to keep in mind is that there are no right or wrong answers. What your emotions show about you are how you interact with the world, and they show what matters most to you only. The example that I provide is going to be based upon feedback from doing this work with many clients over the years, but it is going to be different for everyone. We will do one emotion together, then I'll recommend pausing and trying a few more on your own. Let's start with the emotions anxiety, worry, and feeling overwhelmed. In the first column, you'll go ahead and capture those emotions. Then in the next column, we want to capture any advantages or benefits to anxiety or worry. Why would your brain want you to feel this? I know this is a strange way to think about anxiety. It may be a struggle to come up with these at all. After all, anxiety can be paralyzing. It can be embarrassing. It may even literally be keeping you from joy in your life. So what does it possibly provide as a benefit? Think about anxiety as a fear response to a threat that your brain believes in. You might find that you always prepare for the worst, for example, or that you worry so much and that it actually motivates you to focus on those things that you're worried most about. Your anxiety may have you preparing for an important conversation for days. Or you may find that when you're anxious, you're hyper aware of your surroundings. If your anxiety is social, for example, you may be aware of everybody around you all the time. This is extremely exhausting, but it's also protective. If you feel like you have too much on your plate, but you have to do it all in order to make others happy, your anxiety may provide energy to somehow keep going until you burn out. If you fear of a threat, anxiety may keep you at home where you are safe. As you can see from these examples, anxiety is actually a very protective emotion. If you are someone who feels a lot of anxiety, what does your anxiety point to that matters most to you? What is it that you value? Often I hear clients say that they worry about others' well being, taking care of others, maybe friends or family members' happiness. People with anxiety tend to be very nurturing and also people that value accountability, even if sometimes they do fall short. They tend to be the people that friends come to with burdens, but rarely do the anxious individuals place burdens on others. Anxiety is actually a very selfless emotion. It almost always has to do with others. Anxiety truly shows a lot of amazing things about someone, but it's also a terribly heavy burden to carry. Once again, a thing I see in people that come in with anxiety is that they tend to carry others' burdens and they do not want others to carry their own. They're pretty amazing people. Now it's your turn to give this a try. If you're alone, you can just try to fill out the two columns on your own for any negative emotions or thoughts that you experience. Then you start the program again, and I'll share a few more possible advantages and core values with you. If you used the positive reframing for depression, you may have found some of the following benefits. It tends to slow things down for us, maybe allowing us to understand or process a loss. Feeling depressed may allow me to be alone. Going through depression may also help me learn to empathize for others that feel down. When you think about the values, depression tends to point to loss of someone or something important. It shows my courage to love someone or something deeply and risk that loss, that hurt. It potentially points to sensitivity, empathy, and someone that is just real. These are all really important values, and they're very positive. They're often what depression show about us. Let's take a look at anger or frustration or even resentment. There are some very powerful benefits to anger. Anger can literally give us physical strength and confidence. Oftentimes, when we get angry, we use our voice and people hear us. Anger can be very protective. It can be protective either physically or emotionally. Sometimes we use anger to cover up other emotions we don't want people to see, like sadness and anxiety. A lot of times, frustration can help motivate us to do something, to make a change, to be focused. Even resentment points to things that matter to us. So what about values? The interesting thing about anger is anger points to those core values that matter most to us. It's those rules about life or ourselves or people that really matter to us that make us angry. It can be things like justice, fairness, those morals that we have. A lot of times when we experience anger, we're being very authentic. We're also pointing potentially to very high expectations, either on ourselves or others. And once again, these are all very positive values that we have. They're important. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more together. Guilt or shame? If we start with the question, is it appropriate for the situation? Guilt involves feeling bad about something I've done. Shame is a little bit different. It's feeling bad about who I am. In truth, it's never appropriate because we always have self-worth and we shouldn't be questioning that self-worth of whether or not I'm good enough. But let's take a look at some possible benefits to guilt or shame. When we think about benefits, a lot of times with guilt, we think about learning from something we've done. Maybe we're trying to not make the same mistake in the future. Sometimes guilt just helps us do the right thing. It helps us follow our morals. When you think about shame, sometimes there's a comfort in it that people feel, and they feel like they can control it at least, and it keeps them from potentially being maybe a victim of a situation or a person. What would it possibly point to that we really care about as we look at the last column? Generally, guilt and shame point to our morals. A lot of times that has to do with our families or maybe relationships, people that we really care about, trying to be good people, maybe our faith. A lot of times, people who carry a lot of guilt or shame tend to be honest people, people who are accountable for their actions. It can point to humility, even strength. These are very powerful and important values that we have, but they can lead to some very painful emotions like guilt and shame. Here's an example of a positive reframing table with a couple more feelings added on there. Once again, these are personal to the individual. They're not generalizations. So what I have here are just examples. They may be different for you. The values in the right column are positive and they're really important. So why does all this matter? Well, when we began this journey, we were thinking that we needed to fix ourselves by getting rid of these negative feelings like anxiety, guilt, depression, anger. We often think that the solution is to make them go away. However, when we learn that these emotions actually show amazing things about us, they point to what matters most to us. We begin the real journey of self-acceptance. We can then shift our focus to managing those emotions rather than eliminating them. And managing them is going to be what session 2 of this program is all about. Thank you for taking the time to learn with me today. I hope you have a new perspective on feelings like anxiety and depression. For more resources like blogs, books, and links, please explore my website at www.chrisguzniczakcounseling.com.